Welcome back to ChiroThon in Kansas City. I have a quick thing I want you guys to do at home who've been watching. If you wouldn't mind, for Sherry and I, because on the next break we're going to go through this, can you please post some of the things that you've learned from some of the speakers, what you've loved, and maybe how we can make this better for next year? And more importantly, I want you guys to ask us questions so that when we come back we can answer some of them. But what have you learned, and then what maybe do you want next year that we can bring to you to make this even better?
Absolutely. Now, if you're just tuning in for the first time today, we have had an incredible lineup of guests, and it's remarkable how much the education has gone with the experience and the stories that have gone through the entire day today. But if you've missed any of it, it's okay. We have it recorded and you'll be able to join any one of them. You can visit f4cp.org/Chirothon, where you can watch all of the previous vignettes and see the full schedule, get an update on donations, or make a donation. I think that's one of the big pieces is you're here for a reason, you're here to learn, but also be here to give as well.
To give, to love, to serve, to do. That's what was taught to me at Life University and Sid Williams and just everything that was passed down. And I think that's such a crucial part of chiropractic, to give. And Bill Harris, you remember Bill?
Yes.
The little red hat, he used to always say the hole you give through is the hole you receive through. And that always stuck with me. I'm like, what you give is what you get. And so just remember, if you have a little bit that you can give, this is providing opportunities for families that may not have it to get chiropractic care.
Absolutely.
And speaking of that, I just want to say this. I'm really proud of everybody so far. Our current amount raised is $14,260. We're almost halfway to Sherry's goal, a little bit further away from my goal, but we're almost there to that 30K. So I want to encourage you, please share this ChiroThon out on your Instagram, socials. Make sure that if you have somebody who's a practitioner or somebody who needs this for the rest of the afternoon or tomorrow, text them and tell them to get on.
We need to reach those people that are hurting. We need to optimize those athletes. And then we also need to prevent. Injury and prevention is very real, especially as aging adults. Our balance gets lost, all of those things, but we need to be able to reach them. And that's why your donation is so important this week. It is a drug-free choice, whole being health. Now, if you know someone who is looking for a healthcare solution that doesn't include drugs or surgery, that needs to have help now, have them visit us at f4cp.org/find a doctor. These are the moments that really matter. The more aware they are, the more they can care for their condition, the more education, because sometimes we just don't know where to turn. We're here for you, and that's really what we want to do.
We could not have had such a successful day one of the ChiroThon without the support of our generous sponsors. The sponsor of this one is Foot Levelers again. And remember, Foot Levelers is the world-leading provider in handcrafted custom flexible orthotics. They've been committed to advancing health and wellness since 1952. Their custom orthotics are uniquely designed to support all three arches of the foot, offering a whole body support. They promote optimal alignment and well-being by providing a balanced, symmetrical foundation. For more information, you can visit footlevelers.com and connect with them on their socials.
Now remember, your donation doesn't just support the chiropractic profession, it actually teaches people about the positive benefits of a drug-free approach. It's holistic. Our foundation has done some amazing campaigns highlighting the importance of chiropractic care for athletes, for our pediatrics, for our pregnant mothers, all along the course of one thing. How do we really live life? It's not the years lived, it's the years lived with longevity. And I heard yesterday someone say lifegevity, and I kind of love that because it's life in your longevity. And that's the covered things like the rodeo and pickleball and sports that we have done, the golfing commercials. We did an Olympic commercial. We've reached across the pond.
We would
across
never
the
have
world.
met. The foundation brought us together.
Absolutely.
And that was what, 10 years ago?
It was.
And the thing
Where
is,
were we? Do you remember?
I don't. Where
National
were we?
Press Club in Washington, D.C.
Oh, that's right. We were in D.C. And so this is the thing about the foundation is that for the docs that are watching, you can get involved. Sherry has changed my life. The foundation has changed my life because throughout periods of time, we see opportunities and we need you. We can't be everywhere. So if you want to get involved with us on a leadership point, on maybe an ambassador point, especially with FIFA coming up, reach out. Stay tuned for our next ad.
Absolutely. The next ad that you're going to see is actually one of the things that brought us all together. It is a golf commercial. Remember, you saw Dr. M talk about golf. Well, the money that was raised was to help educate, and it was the golfing commercial. So let's show you what that was all about.
As a sports chiropractor, I view golf differently. When I'm caring for a golfer, I'm adjusting their neuromusculoskeletal system to minimize injury and maximize performance for the perfect swing. Before they even step onto the course, professional golfers, like most athletes, seek chiropractic care. This is where I make the difference in the health of my patients. As a chiropractor, I maintain and restore optimal function between the spine, the nerves, and the rest of the body for that whole-in-one feeling. Where will your chiropractic career take you?
As a TPI, Titles Performance Institute professional, I can tell you that was an amazing commercial because it shows what chiropractic can do with sports. And our next guest couldn't be here in person, but we're excited to have her virtually. Dr. Christine Foss is not only a doctor of chiropractic, but she's also an author. She's an author of the book Discussing Sports Injuries of the Hip. And one of the biggest things that we see in rotational athletes is hip injuries. And if the hip is not working, the low back's going to be causing problems, maybe upper in the shoulder, neck, arm. So pay attention to this one. Again, put comments down below so Sherry and I can look at them and come back and give you some cool information.
Welcome back, everyone, to ChiroThon 2026. We are so excited. I know we've had remarkable guests throughout the entire event, but there are very few that come with the education, the wisdom, and the passion for chiropractic as our next guest. And it is such a pleasure to bring her to you. No matter what walk of life, I know you're going to learn something really fantastic from her. I want to welcome Dr. Christine Foss to ChiroThon 2026. She has a master's degree in sports medicine from Old Dominion University, a doctorate in chiropractic from New York Chiropractic College, and a doctor of medicine degree from the University of Health Sciences. She is also a fantastic author of a book, Dissecting Sports Injuries of the Hip. Now, Dr. Foss has had many experiences from treating and rehabilitating athletes and non-athletes, as well as being the owner of Elite Sports Recovery Center in Florida. Now, she has worked in the sports medicine department at the University of Notre Dame and volunteered at the Olympic training camps multiple times and at different locations. She's worked at the World Games in Poland and Birmingham and the Bobsled World Championship. Well, there's a lot of interesting injuries that can come there. She additionally traveled with Team USA ATF as a medical staff and worked extensively with men and women gymnastics. She has additionally worked alongside prominent surgeons in caring for and rehabilitating athletic injuries. She finds particular interest in difficult cases. She is a go-getter, fired up, and ready to go all the time. I have yet seen her where she is low energy, and we are truly blessed to have her with us today. Welcome to ChiroThon 2026.
Thanks, Sherry. Thanks so much for having me. And that intro sounds exhausting.
Well, you know what? With someone who is as energetic as you, it can be exhausting, right, Dr. Foss?
Yes, yes, at times.
Well, our audience really has a plethora of experience over ChiroThon 2026. And we really want to dive into for you, because you're dually trained in both chiropractic and medicine. I want our audience to kind of get a feel of how that really integrates into your life, and how do you see chiropractic kind of uniquely contributing to performance, recovery, and longevity, especially when patients haven't found success with the conventional care that many have said, I had a symptom, I just manage it now.
Sherry, that's such a great question. And I see and answer those questions every day. So it actually is so perfect. We're trained as chiropractors to kind of look at the whole body and how the whole body performs. Sometimes in medicine, we get lost in the minutia of just looking at one injury and treating one injury. But really, one injury stems from a bunch of biomechanical faults that have caused the one injury. And so chiropractic is unique and wonderful and amazing because we're able to kind of pan out from the myopic view of the injury and look at how the whole body's moving and make those corrections to get rid of this web of contributors to the injury.
It's really nice that you kind of bring in, we've had some of our guests talk about the 10-minute treatment, which is focused on one symptom. And, if you want to have it interconnected to another problem, well, you got to come back for another visit. And that can really stronghold a consumer to even want to start getting something taken care of, because then they think it's going to be multiple visits, it's going to be multiple copays or deductibles that are going to be needing to met, and it becomes a little bit overwhelming in the big and broad scope of things. But when we come down to working with elite athletes, is I want to jump to where your specialty is, which is you've been in some very high level intense environments that really bring out optimum performance. And I want for two audiences here today: the consumer that is looking to kind of build out their understanding of chiropractic, but also our chiropractic colleagues, that oftentimes we as collaborators with other healthcare professions wish that, there was more communication and collaboration for the patient's benefit. But when you're treating Olympic athletes and you go to the training camps and the world championships that you have done, tell me about when you step on the turf, what role, for example, does the nervous system play and the spinal function have to do with optimizing performance when it's really specific to a particular sport?
Sh- Sherry, we could spend hours talking about that. Yes, yes, yes. Well, to kind of pan back on the conversation prior to the question, understanding our role as a chiropractor when we do travel with a large team like Team USA, which is just wonderful to travel with. I'm one spot, I'm one lens, right? And you're with medical doctors and orthopedists and physical therapists and massage therapists and athletic trainers, all wonderful, all just wonderful people. My lens is to try to see how do we all come together to enhance this athlete's performance? What can we do to make this better? And looking at the nervous system really is a key element in instantaneously improving performance, right? So I've had the wonderful and amazing experience of just doing some AK and just a little AK prior to a performance. And the person was like, oh my gosh, I won today. Thank you. Thank you for that.
And
So
Dr. Foss, could you explain for a consumer the AK portion of it?
yeah, so I'm not an AK practitioner, but I know a couple of tricks from the from being down the road a little bit. Applied kinesiology, where we tap into signals from the nervous system and turn systems off or systems on. So one particular athlete had zero lower body flexion. In other words, they couldn't extend their hip or flex their hip and extend their knee. That's a problem for a sprinter, right? We could agree that that'd be a problem for a sprinter. But in seconds, we can do some applied kinesiology and turn that muscle on. Then the athlete goes on and can perform like with excellence. We'd have to do some work on the back end to maintain that. But this is the way we can kind of key into the nervous system as chiropractors to be a part of that performance team.
It's really exciting when you start thinking about the non-invasive ways that we can optimize an athlete's health. And then we want to bring it back into the room to which we have a consumer sitting there right now who doesn't see themselves even as an athlete. They'll say, maybe I'm a weekend warrior. I'm just beginning that kind of care. There's a lot of struggle either when you're injured and you get a chronic injury, also with starting a athletic program if you've been out for a while. What were some of the things that over the course of the time that you've been a chiropractor and a medical doctor that you wish a patient knew either before the injury, aka prevention, or when they're hitting that chronic pain problem?
Yes, such a great point, Sherry, because I just recently moved down to South Florida, which is the pickleball capital of the world. I just want to say. So I'm seeing a ton, and this pickleball is serious business down here. I'm telling you, people are getting kicked off pickleball teams. Like there's all kinds of stuff. Lots of drama on the pickleball court. But what I'm seeing is we should all be active individuals. If you want to identify as an athlete, we should all be active. If we know anything about aging and longevity, we know that more muscle mass we have, the slower we're going to age, right? The better we're going to move into that older, that older part of life, right? That next stage of life. But if we take the person that's used to not being active and try to train them to be active, what we want to think of, and what I wish I could do for so many of my pickleballers, is coach them on the re-entry into activity. How do you get your body ready? Instead of just going out and playing 2 hours of pickleball and blowing out your elbow, which I'm seeing a ton of elbows right now for this very reason, how can I prepare my body so that I don't fail, right? So that I can keep climbing the active role of fitness. That's really where we need to think. So I think if anything, I would say get with a personal trainer or meet with your chiro, get adjusted, get leveled out. Let's look at your feet. How are your feet performing? That's such a huge thing for so many injuries, right? If we have flat feet, hyperpronated feet, or supinated feet, there's nothing's going to be good above that. So, start with a good solid visit with a chiropractor and adjustment. Somebody scanning your feet would be so helpful. And then also moving on to a personal trainer. Do you have the strength? And then what exercises you can do to gradually integrate yourself into an active, healthy lifestyle.
This is really important because oftentimes we do negate the proactive care that is necessary, and it does lead us into injury. And even when I think back to some of the things that I've done, like because I was training for a triathlon, I just thought naturally I would be great. I just jump in the pool, my aerobic level's great, good for you. And it depends sport specific too. And I think you would agree with me, Dr. Foss, that just because you're a great runner does not make you a great swimmer, and that the different muscle patterns and the different ways to which we invite our body to participate in the activity that we want to do leads us to sometimes it is repetitive stress and you're doing it wrong repetitively. Like I watched one of my friends swimming and she'd only breathe on the left side. Well, good for her. And she always wondered why her neck was hurting. So so I actively start to think about the beauty of what you do, which is I want to prepare you for success no matter what. If you're an Olympic athlete or you're now a couch potato moving into, you said something really beautiful and I don't think I'll ever forget it. And you just said it right now. It's such a nugget of love, is that the more muscle you have, the slower you age. Like who doesn't want to age really, really slowly? Okay, for the audience listening right now, how fast do you want to age? Said
Right.
no one. The speed of age is not something anyone anybody wants, unless you're like 15 and you want to get to that 21 age.
Mhm.
That's a totally different story. But what I
Right.
love about
Right.
what you do is you bring it down to the nuts and bolts. And one of those nuts and bolts for you, you've really focused your time into the hip and hip injuries. Share with me why you wrote the book on hip injuries and what have you learned after writing the book?
Oh, you asked the best question, Sherry. I have to tell you. Okay. I travel pretty much around the globe lecturing, Sherry, and I teach a lot of doctors how to manage sports injuries, how to evaluate them, how to manage them, how to bring somebody back safely. And what I've noticed in all these years is there's not a lot of command of the hip, A. And so I would like to enhance that and help our doctors because the hip and the low back are very intimately related. If your hip is not functioning, you can't have low back stability. It's impossible to have that. The hip is the most integral part of the body. All five major kinetic chains cross through the hip. So if you don't have a command of hip and strength in your hip and the hip joints working perfectly, then you have nothing. You can't have a pain-free body. And you can't have an injury-free body. So that was the motivation, pretty much behind writing the book. Afterwards, and I'm writing a new book currently, which is called The Kinetic Code, and that's looking deeper into decoding the body in these kinetic chains to predictable patterns to help doctors uncode injury. Okay, that's the kind of the easiest way I can say it. But the more I research this kinetic code, the more I appreciate how important the hip is in everything that we do. Like even as we age and estrogen levels decrease, we lose stability of the hip. So middle-aged women who are active now, right? We have a lot of middle-aged women that are active are so susceptible to injury. And so just that's kind of my before and after and kind of my why, I guess I should say.
Critical that we have the why. And I think Simon Sinek was one of the first, you focus on long-term success, but be willing to make short-term adjustments to get there. That's where you have really made an impact, both in the chiropractic field as well as other healthcare providers that are looking at optimal function, and especially as we age, because there's nothing worse than saying, I want to gain that muscle, because Dr. Foss was right. And she just drilled a hole in my brain that the less muscle I have, the faster I age. And that inverse proportional relationship is so painful. And what I want to do is get back in and start building muscle. But there's a moment where you have to reflect that the joints have to work together. And I deeply, deeply agree with you that the hip has to be one of those key operators, because every heel strike goes to the hip. And that's a big piece of how we operate. And especially with women and their pelvic bowls being different than men, there's lots of ligament damage and joint articulation that has to go on. And you said an important word. I want my consumers that are listening, always saying hi to my healthcare professionals that are joining us with Dr. Christine Foss today, is the kinematic chain. So I know this is not an easy definition, but if you would kindly share for those that may have never heard that word before, what is the kinematic chain?
Yeah. So the kinematic chain is basically looking at the interlinking body systems and how they all come together to work in sequence. So we know that when you heel strike, Sherry, for example, as you're walking and your heel hits the ground, certain muscles need to activate in a very predictable sequence pattern. When we don't have that activation, then load and force are dispersed inappropriately through the body, and injury is exponentially increased. And so we think of the kinetic chain as the old term, the ankle bone connected to the knee bone, connected to the hip bone, right? Well, we know this much more in detail now with the biomechanical aspects of how each joint's supposed to be moving and rotating, and how each muscle is supposed to be getting through a certain range of motion and activating the joint to move. And so we look at this from the heel all the way up through the hand and the arm and say, for example, tennis serve, right? If we don't have the strength coming from the floor up, we cannot have a strong serve. So the greater force that we're missing through the floor, the more likelihood you're going to get a shoulder injury. And so we use the kinetic chain to help disperse this load to decrease overall predisposition to injury.
Excellent. You know, you just took something. This is the perfect segue into what Albert Einstein would say, which is, if you can't explain it simply enough, you don't know it well enough. And I'll tell you right now, Dr. Fox just did a fabulous job of taking something that is very complex and intricate and making it seem simple. And I love the beauty of it's like watching an artist put the canvas down and then start painting. And Dr. Foss, you did a fabulous job. Now I'm going to ask you a little bit about, knowing that you wrote the book and seeing that we have this upcoming fascinating kinematic code, which I think is it's very beautiful in and of itself, is that if you could now, for a consumer, kind of give them a little bit of the secret to the code, what would you tell them? That first things first, what would it look like if you could just take someone aside for about a minute before, during, or after an exercise that they pay attention to?
I would say, well, what we know from the research now is that we've got to look at your hip and lumbopelvic region first. So my go-to for every patient that I see, my first thing is, it's all about the glutes. Guys, it's all about the glutes. So if we don't have good glute control and strength, you can't lock in your sacroiliac joints. You can't stabilize the lumbopelvic junction. It's not possible. And so many people now have glute amnesia. We use that term to
I love
say
that.
your glutes are not contracting properly. So therefore, it keeps us very busy as chiros, but really we want to see you not have pain, right? That's really our mission. So that's kind of the crux of it, is you've really got to start in that lumbopelvic region and getting the glutes going first.
I love the glute amnesia, because I think
Yeah,
that's a very, very important way to look at it. Because for those that are sitting all day long, how do you expect your glutes to feel? Like, if you
right.
sit on anything all day long, you got to expect that it's going to pay a price. And that is going to be the ultimate in forgiveness of
Mhm.
how your body is going to relate back to you, is if you can get those glutes moving. Butt muscles, critical. Okay, so we got the butt moving. How, from your perspective, are men and women so different in this particular region? And what
Yeah.
would you say is specific for men that you would want them to do, knowing that they're men, versus women and what you'd want them to do?
Well, men and women are so very different physiologically, right? So men have 50% increased upper body strength than women. Women have fluctuating hormone levels, which make them more unstable at certain periods, right? When estrogen is lower, as we said earlier, they're more unstable, whether it's through the shoulder, hips, ankles, or knees. And so we have very different insight as to what I'm going to do differently. And then also knowing about activity levels, what are we going to do for the person that wants to run versus the person that wants to swim? And so I think we need to kind of look at everybody as an individual and kind of dive into, like you said, a swimmer doesn't have the same muscle sequencing as a runner. And so looking deeper into that.
It's also very, I think, very important for us to recognize as we grow through what we go through is that we're not the same athlete we were at 15 years old. And so this is a painful reality. It happens with me all the time, which is, okay, I'm not 20 years old anymore. So I have to continually re-embrace that the body that I have is the body that I have. It's not 20 years old, but it's also not 100 years old. And somewhere in between is where I'm going to gauge. How do you reflect with the athlete that is aging that there are opportunities for them to maximize where they are while protecting their joints, aka you got a pickleballer and they want to go full force and they're like they don't want to get kicked off the team because obviously in Florida it's highly competitive.
An
so
issue.
so share with me, Dr. Foss, you have someone that you really want them to recognize that they're not 15 anymore. What are some of the things that you really do to approach this aging adult athlete?
Yeah. I think, having an honest conversation is always where I like to begin, but also going back to what I call medical math, right? There's the facts of tissue healing. We know these timelines and we know they're different for different ages. So, for example, my pickleballers with their elbow injuries, they have, let's say they have a 70% tear, right, of extensor tendon. We know that it's 21 days to lay down a preliminary matrix. So you've got to give me 21 days for at least the preliminary matrix to lay down. So these medical math timelines are important, but also explaining to them that also those timelines change with aging, as does, when you stretch, right? As the older we get, the longer we need to stretch. When you're younger, we override the stretch reflex. Longer than 12 seconds, we're getting a stretch. When we're older, it could be up to 40 seconds, 45 seconds before the Golgi tendon organs shut down and we're actually stretching. So we've got to give them, I always lead with scientific evidence of the aging process and how our body is just physiologically a little bit different. Recovery is longer and therefore healing is longer. And also muscle growth is harder, right? Every decade of life.
Yeah, it's so beautiful to age. And
Yeah,
that's
I
why we
know.
need to
I
age
hear
with
you.
grace, right?
I hear
This is
you. I hear
this is
you.
one of the key aspects that we bring Dr. Foss in is to say, everybody comes from a different place, sometimes a different sport, and sometimes a different phase in their life, as well as where they are in the movement category. It is critical because I am often quoted as saying, what doesn't grow dies. And that could be your glutes forgetting exactly what they're supposed to do, the glute amnesia, which is such a beautiful way of putting it, as well as to reflect on where they are as an athlete. And just the stretching portion, I think everybody today needs to recognize, that 40 seconds for the Golgi apparatus to really get that to the next stage where stretching really becomes actually important in being able to actually do it right is another key criteria. So share with me, because I know you have a wealth of experience. Give me two stretches that you often see done wrong and that make you cringe.
Only two? Only
Only two. You
two.
only get two.
Listen, I start my morning at a very large gym close to here that has a ton of people stretching wrong every day. And it is just, I have to put on my headphones and listen to something completely that's going to distract me from looking at people stretch wrong. I would say I see a lot of people, and I like dynamic stretching for performance, right? Dynamic stretching has been proven to be more effective in the early stages, but what I
Okay,
don't,
for the consumer, start with the dynamic stretching, just so they've got that. What is the
yeah,
dynamic stretching portion?
but what I don't like is the ballistic stretch before you work out. That stuff is ready to come to my office soon. I should just go hand out my cards when I see somebody doing.
Okay, if you're listening, what she just did is the rapid, very violent twisting back and forth. Ballistic stretching can be a force in and of itself, and it can actually be how the outcome happens, which is ballistic, which is I don't know what happened to my back, but I was just doing a stretch.
Exactly, exactly.
Okay, that's number one, the twist, the rapid and unfortunate twist. Now, what's another one that you see that really does make you wish you had a magic wand and said, look, this is not how you do this?
Well, I'm going to tell you, I would really, really love for people. I see most of my injuries, most of my athletes come in after RDLs, blow out their back on RDLs, Romanian deadlift.
Thank you.
So I think the Romanian deadlift technique needs to be improved, or if you don't have hamstring flexibility, maybe you have no business doing Romanian deadlifts. So I see those done wrong in the gym frequently, but that is my number one injury currently that I'm seeing with my athletes.
This is so important because once you know what's number one, Romanian deadlifts. Look, everybody has a Dr. Google out there. You'll know exactly what she's talking about. But she 100%, that was one of the things that while in practice for myself as well as I'd go to the gym, I would watch the very heavy lifters do things that I just had to turn around and say, that's either going to damage the internal delicate structure of the spine or below their hamstrings. That's like there's only two options here, and I don't want to watch either one of them happen. And that's kind of the key why chiropractic is such an important piece is we really do want to condition you to appropriate level and then guide you to maximum. Nobody ever woke up one morning and said, I'm going to run a marathon. So you have to be consistent with that care. And Dr. Foss, I do love that you have a passion for it, but you don't just treat the patient. You, in fact, practice what you preach. So, would you share with our audience your athletic training that you do on a regular basis?
Um, I'm an OCD. I'm going to start off by saying that. So I'm in the gym about 6 days a week, minimum of an hour a morning before I treat patients. So that would be uh, an I'll give you whole lowdown. It's a shoulder day, it's a bis and tris day, it's 3 cardio days, it's a leg day, it's a chest and back day. So some of those days have double workouts, some have single workouts. Then it's a red light. I'm huge on recovery. Recovery is the wave of the future. So I do red light 3 mornings a week before seeing my patients. After doing that, I'm ready to start treating.
Wow, you inspire me so much because it does lift me up. I mean, the current situation that we're in American statistics is we're sick and we're not healthy. And I do recognize we got here not by happenstance. You know, COVID played a big role in a lot of our unfortunate and deleterious habits now. And so I really want this audience to know that Dr. Foss is practicing what she preaches because she's done the homework and she's coded it and she is presenting it and she's sharing it with you that she's there doing the hard work. And I do love that it becomes one of those moments where you have to have discipline in order to create that. What actually keeps you motivated in this area where you're getting up every morning and you know what you're going to do? Why and what keeps the Dr. Foss ticking?
I'll tell you, and it might sound hokey, but I'm going to share it anyway. Honestly, I absolutely love what I do every day as a chiropractor, as a sports chiro. This profession to me, I have goosebumps even just saying it. So a lot of us chiros, for the consumer out there, might not know how beat up we are physically. Shoulders, elbows, wrists, and knees. I teach at a lot of seminars. Pretty much a good percentage of those doctors are asking me to treat them at the end of the seminars. I do it so I can be great at the office. I have to move a lot of bodies. I've got to adjust. It's a long day. I don't take breaks. I work about a 10-hour shift. So I have to be strong and fit to be there for my patients. And that's really my mission.
Outstanding. So the consumer that's listening, find the reason that's going to keep you in the game. And what she did say, which I think is very important, is it's regular. It's not, oh, today I'm going to do 100 minutes of exercise and tomorrow I'm going to do 4. That doesn't work out. It doesn't work for anybody. It's a regular routine. You got to find the time in your day, literally every day. If you could find it every single day, the same time every day, I don't even care if you just sit there and meditate, because at the end of the day, it's meditation can actually stimulate your nervous system in ways to which we have yet to fully understand the frequency. And they say that the hertz 528 is love. So we're starting to get it, but it takes time, energy. And when she goes to the gym, she's 528 hertz. She's full on loving what she does so she can love her patients. And I think that's the crossroads. I want to end with one last question, and I think it's a very fair question for those that are really at the crossroads. Maybe they have a chronic injury that they're just giving up. Perhaps they are hearing you and they're fully steamed up about, I want to be like Dr. Foss. I want to work out every day. But you want to prepare them for success. As we go through and we start talking about a whole person, a whole being in the performance category as well as the prevention category, what would you want a consumer to hear today that allows them to see their body as a whole and to be proactive into their future for preventing injury and also longevity, to really live a health span that's vibrant?
And this is this same answer as if we're talking about a high level athlete that's frustrated with redundancy of injury, which is my last patient today that I just left. Um, and I think the thing is, remember, if you have injuries, if you have recurrent injuries, if you have pain, there is a key that opens the door to your wellness. You just have to find that key. And whether that's meditation or stretching or exercising, but you've got to prepare your body slowly to reintegrate back into health. It's not like Sherry was saying, or Dr. McAllister was saying, don't just jump back into it. You've got to ease into it. Everything is, increasing load and intensity gradually. And understand that you've got to listen to your whole body. If you have several injuries, then there's another problem somebody's missing that's causing these injuries. And you've got to get to somebody that can help you unlock that code.
Oh, beautiful. Absolutely fantastic. What an absolute pleasure to have you, Dr. Foss. It never, every time I see you, it's like a burst of caffeine, only there's no caffeine involved.
No, I don't even drink coffee. So
That's right. See, there's so many beautiful things that you can learn from someone who's walking the walk and talking the talk. And that is why we brought Dr. Christine Foss on today. She's a specialist, a certified chiropractic sports physician. She is a chiropractor that is really on fire for everybody, not just the Olympic athletes, although it's fun to treat them because you get to see their outcomes that really perform on the world stage. But thank you, Dr. Foss, for living the lifestyle of a chiropractor, which is we need to foundationally do what is right for ourselves. Like the proverbial put your mask on first before you can help someone else. And you're living that life. So as ChiroThon 2026 wraps up and you bringing in this light, I would like to thank you sincerely for not only teaching us, but also living it so that your 528 hertz is fully functioning. Thank you, Dr. Foss.
so much. You have a wonderful day. Thanks for having me.
Pleasure.
All right, I hope you learned a lot about that, especially because the hip is so important to the human body, especially when you think about performance. And remember, where your pain isn't always where it's caused. So remember, I want you to leave a comment, just like we said earlier, right? Because I think this is important, that we want to make this interactive and also honor you guys for making the time. So if you have any questions on what you've learned or maybe what you want or what you've gotten out of any of these vignettes so far, do that so when we come back we can answer those.
100% excited to have you still with us. We love to hear from you, and while we can't wait to see what you have to say, and we'll be right with you, the key to success is stay with it. It's one step at a time, and if it's your hip, get it taken care of. So we'll meet you back here in just a few.
See you in a few.